Sukasi Dayupunut. My name is Ashley King, and I'm part of the Weaving Men Collective. So initially what we did was we kind of just sat here in the space, took in what was already here, like the pine trees, the maple trees, and this mystery tree that's over there as well. We looked up to see what can actually grow in these spaces, in this area. So where we're sitting right now with the 4 logs, each in the cardinal direction, we decided to do some poplar and willow trees behind them as a kind of a bit more privacy for where you're sitting and kind of relaxing. Each entranceway, there's 4 entranceways, each of them have poplar and willow, and they've been kind of, over time we've been weaving them together to kind of create an archway. There's also some beans and peas being planted, and they kind of, they add nitrogen to the soil to kind of help replenish it, and they also have a place to kind of grow because it'll just kind of climb on top of the already poplar and the willow trees that are there. The importance of this garden to me is it gives me a sense of purpose, something that I can see kind of grow when I put in a lot of work. There's always something to do with the garden every point in the year. We're either getting it ready for the winter, or we're getting it ready to just kind of open up for the summer and spring. Yeah, it's really just it's a place of peace and purpose for me, and I love it. I have an affinity for nature, and this helps a lot with kind of being in the suburbs or just being in the city. It's a nice little getaway. This space is definitely necessary. There needs to be more spaces like this. This is just the beginning. This needs to be happening everywhere. I know I see a lot of people who kind of come to the space and they tell us that it's a beautiful place to kind of just sit and be. A reminder of the importance of what nature has for us. And also a reminder to be respectful of nature, because it is also, even though yes, it's very durable, it can also be very fragile.
Anin, Bert, Indishnikaj, Shashkana. Hi, my name is Bert, my clan is Muskrat, and I'm a member of the Weaving Men Collective. So we decided to build 4 seating arrangements which are cohesive with the medicine wheel. And they each are representing a different direction, north, east, south, west. We also have 4 archways, but because of the layout of the land, we had to change the position of where we were placing the archways and really listen to and agree with the way that the land was already set up. So the plants in the Weaving Men garden, the Weaving Men garden started off as a medicine garden, so we planted sage, cedar, tobacco, and sweetgrass, and strawberries. And it started off as a collective medicine garden, so we planted these medicines in hopes of eventually sharing them with the community. The garden is a living, breathing place that requires continuous care and upkeep throughout the seasons. It's not just a one-time project, it's a project that is continuous and is forever evolving and changing.
Sego, Kain Youngyat, Swakskade Wage, Ganyangehan Ewagotten Sodan. Kaya here, a member of Weaving Men Collective, born and raised here in Toronto, Dish with One Spoon Treaty Territory. Been a member of Weaving Men for 3 years now. So initially we were just going to make benches. That's what the call to design was, but when we saw the space we realized there was a lot more potential. So yeah, we really were inspired by the space that we were working with. So the approach to the design aspect of the garden was a lot of consulting with each other and all of the members that were involved with the first iteration of Weaving Men. So we did, as I mentioned, a lot of visioning and dreaming of what we wanted to do with the space. There was a lot of conversation that was held around what we want, what we need from public space as urban, Indigenous, femme, and non-binary people, and as artists too. So everyone brought something different to the process of designing, and then we really held space for each other in terms of, okay, well, how can we put all of these ideas together in a way that celebrates them all and where everyone is included and heard. And yeah, so that was a really beautiful process. And it involved so much networking that we didn't plan on to. Like, so many other people were brought onto the project that we didn't intend to even have, in terms of like material collecting and sourcing knowledge. So yeah, that process was really beautiful. So the plants that are in the Weave and Mend garden currently, we have some sweetgrass that is growing back from last year when we planted it. We have some prairie sage, and then some other things that kind of flew in, like we have dandelion and burdock and, oh, what's that other stuff called?
Milkweed.
Milkweed, yeah, and milkweed. So we have a lot of medicines. It's primarily a medicine garden, which is what we intended it to be. And yeah, I'm personally really excited to continue my journey of learning of what all the plants in the gardens offer. Specifically and intentionally, we planted sweetgrass and sage and tobacco and strawberries and baby cedar as well, because those were, I mean, the 4 medicines, but then also strawberry is like the femme medicine, the heartberry. So we planted the medicines that we held the most teachings around, but then also the medicines that we wanted access to. And what's really beautiful about the tobacco is that it's seeded, so now we have all of this incredible, like so many tobacco seeds, and every pod of a tobacco plant holds like tens of thousands of seeds, which is really amazing, and we have all these pods now that we can like disperse to community. So that's really exciting. And we harvested the sweetgrass last year, and we'll do the same this year. So yeah, my dream for Weave and Mend is to continue harvesting medicines and holding workshops around harvesting medicines with community. Yay, Weave and Mend. It's an ecosystem, right, that we have facilitated almost, and it's not just like an ecosystem of plants, but it's also an ecosystem for community. Like all of the different folks who come through this space, who access this space that perhaps we didn't intend to when we were building the space, is really beautiful. So it's hard to name in one word what it represents, but I think like, yeah, it represents also the potential of green space in Tkaronto, and the potential of green space in any urban area, and the importance of getting Indigenous people to work in green spaces and steward them, because yeah, it's hard to live in a concrete jungle. The Weave and Mend garden, to me personally, is a really magical space because it allowed me and continues to allow me a space that I can intimately be working with the land, develop intimate relationships with medicines. And I suppose when I say intimate, I mean like I'm seeding them, planting them, watching them grow a second year as well, harvesting them, drying them, like that whole process that I've never really had access to, I now do. And I get to do it alongside like folks that I've developed a really beautiful kinship with, which makes it an even more special process of learning and growing and healing. And it's a space that I can continue to come back to do this kind of work, but then also take whatever I'm learning from this space into other spaces. What the Weave and Mend garden space brings to community is a space to rest, a space to gather, a space to access some quiet, and I think green spaces and plants just offer a lot of good healing energy, and that's what this space brings to community. Of course, it also brings medicines too, so it brings a space to facilitate other sorts of conversations of medicine knowledge, It's a space to activate in artistic ways as we've done by holding, we've drummed here, I think, we've recited spoken word here, so it's like a really beautiful space to activate a lot of different conversations and just quietness and a break from the anxiety that is the city. So that's what it offers. I hope for it to offer anyways for community.
My name is Candy. Respect, thanks, and love to everybody here. And I am Wolf Clan Mohawk, or from the people of the Flint. And I come from where the two groups split, Montreal, and I live now where the trees stand in water, Jeet Kaludo, Toronto. And I'm learning to speak my language. So one of the medicines we planted, I'm a Weaving Men member, and one of the medicines we planted with Weaving Men was actually the sweetgrass, which is one of our 4 sacred medicines. Some of the things that sweetgrass represents are the hair of Mother Earth. Normally you braid it in 3 when you're picking it, and then you chop it at the bottom. The reason I'm saying this is very important is because if you just rip out the stems like some people have been taught, which it's okay, but the thing with that is that the sweetgrass won't grow back. So you rather actually braid it when it's time to pick it and then chop it from the bottom. And the braid itself represents mind, body, and soul. The thing about cedar trees is that usually you'll find this tree a lot along water sources, and it stores water in its roots, from what I learned, which is also good for the sweetgrass. And the reason we actually built the sweetgrass here is because there's a dip in the landscape, so a lot of the times where it rains, a lot of the water will collect around this land, which is what the sweetgrass feeds on a lot. And then with the cedar tree, it's kind of helping the sweetgrass grow really beautifully. Very powerful medicine for urinary tract infections, intestinal worms, skin, vitamin C, which is something we would have probably given to settlers here for their scurvy. The oil itself, if you extract the oil from the cedar leaf, it's really good as a mosquito repellent and a black bug repellent, like a lot of bugs that it repels. So our next medicine here is the strawberry. There's a teaching that says that this strawberry loves us so much that it's the only fruit who's put its children on the outside of their body. Those seeds are on the outside, and we also call it the heartberry. And in fact, another thing about medicines that's really interesting is a lot of the time they'll take the shape or color of certain organs or what they do to heal your body. So the strawberry itself is really good for your heart, and it's red. It's anything to do with blood. It's really good for a blood cleaner. It's really good for menstrual cycles, your moon time. We've planted the buffalo sage because it is going to be endangered, and the reason for that is because there has been a trend coming up with smudging, and unfortunately non-Indigenous companies are picking a lot of this sage, but they don't know how to properly do it, and they're not consulting us, and it's actually killing the plant. So that's why we planted it. This plant is the main one that you'll usually, as I said, use for smudging. Specifically the buffalo sage, I was told, is to remove negative energy. The aroma itself is really good for your nervous system, and just burning it itself is all you need. You don't necessarily need it in a tea. And the aroma will help you fall asleep at night. It has calming effects on your nervous system. The other medicine we planted is tobacco, and we actually planted Mohawk tobacco. Mohawk tobacco. Tobacco is very sacred to us. We use it for prayer. It's also good to put underneath plants when you're transplanting or actually